The Titanic and the Human Psyche, What Lies Beneath, by Adam Terpstra. What does a 100-year-old shipwreck have to do with your inner world? More than you might think. This post explores the Titanic as a metaphor for our deepest fears, our hidden emotional lives, and what happens when illusions of control collide with reality. The Titanic as a symbol of the ego ideal. Before its maiden voyage, the Titanic was dubbed unsinkable. That one word captured so much of the Western psyche at the time, an unshakable belief in progress, technology, and mastery over nature. In psychoanalytic terms, the ship was a projection of the ego ideal, our fantasy of who we should be: controlled, perfect, invincible. It represented more than steel and rivets. It embodied a belief that we could rise above vulnerability, mortality, and even fate. The iceberg becomes a metaphor for the unconscious, the vast, unseen forces we ignore until they crash into us and shatter our illusions. Repression and the return of the real. The Titanic's grandeur masked a deep denial of vulnerability. Below decks, class divisions were sharp. Third-class passengers were held in lower sections of the ship and had little access to lifeboats. Emotionally and socially, the ship reflected a society deeply invested in repressing suffering and inequality. From a psychodynamic lens, the event illustrates how repressed truths, death, class, helplessness, will always return, and when they do, they often erupt with force. Much like in therapy, what we ignore does not disappear, it waits. Then it emerges, sometimes as symptoms, sometimes as crisis, sometimes as loss. Death anxiety and the illusion of control. The Titanic is also a powerful confrontation with death anxiety, a concept explored by existential psychoanalyst Ernest Becker in his book, The Denial of Death. Becker argued that humans create illusions of permanence to cope with the terror of mortality. The Titanic was one such illusion. It offered the fantasy of immortality through engineering. Its sinking shattered that illusion. In this way, the Titanic functions like a collective nightmare, where our defenses fail and we are left face to face with the unchangeable truths of life. That we are mortal, vulnerable, and not in control. We see echoes of this in more recent events like the COVID-19 pandemic, which similarly dismantled illusions of certainty, control, and safety, forcing many of us to grapple with grief, fear, and reevaluation. Class, privilege, and the superego. Psychoanalytically, the Titanic also represents the operation of the superego, our internalized moral authority shaped by social hierarchies. The prioritization of first-class passengers during evacuation highlights how external systems of value, wealth, status, become internalized psychological rules. The overarching Orwellian message that while all lives are equal, some lives are more equal than others, is a message that lives on inside of us in how we judge ourselves and how we unconsciously rank people around us. In therapy, we often explore how early life experiences instill rigid internal structures, what Freud called the harsh superego, that can lead to shame, guilt, or a loss of authenticity. The Titanic as a cultural trauma and mirror. In psychological terms, the Titanic sinking can be seen as a narcissistic injury, a psychological wound to identity, to Western civilization, a wound to the collective ego. It represents a point of reckoning where arrogance was met with catastrophe. The event continues to fascinate because it offers a narrative of hubris followed by humbling, a theme that resonates with many people's personal journeys of breakdown, breakthrough, and self-discovery. In Jungian terms, the Titanic is a modern myth, one that helps us confront the shadow side of our collective identity. Contemporary echoes. Climate crisis, artificial intelligence, and fragile fantasies. The Titanic is not just history. It is a metaphor that lives on today. The climate crisis reveals our ongoing fantasy that we can exploit nature without consequence. Artificial intelligence raises questions about whether our pursuit of innovation ignores deeper ethical and emotional dimensions. Social media offers illusions of perfection and invincibility, until burnout, breakdowns, or cancel culture pierces that facade. These modern Titanics show that our psychic defenses related to denial, grandiosity, and control remain very much in play. What therapy offers: a lifeboat, not a rescue. In therapy, we face our own icebergs, the parts of our psyche we have avoided, the losses we have minimized, the pain we have hidden under perfection. The goal is not to become unsinkable. It is to become more conscious, to know what is beneath the surface, and to navigate life with awareness and humility. Sometimes healing is not about building a better ship. It is about learning to swim. Reflecting, reconnect. Where in your life are you clinging to an unsinkable fantasy? What parts of yourself have you locked away below deck? Are there warning signs, emotional icebergs, you are avoiding? If you are navigating a personal reckoning, a time when your sense of self, security, or control feels like it has gone under, we are here to help.